With brand new fighting games come brand new characters, and when Street Fighter 4 released for home consoles in 2009, I remember being blown away by how colourful and unique they all looked. From fan favourites to characters people hate more than asbestos poisoning, Street Fighter 4 introduced plenty of creative character archetypes over its lifespan, and I thought it would be fun if we were to go over them all. The guideline I'm basing this video off is that a quote-unquote newcomer is someone who had their first playable appearance in the Street Fighter 4 series, so even though someone like Evil Ryu, for example, looks and plays differently to his depictions in Street Fighter Alpha, I don't consider him to be a newcomer. I'm also the furthest thing away from a Street Fighter expert, so please don't expect me to analyze every single piece of frame data, hitbox properties, etc., because the video would go on for 7 years if I did that, so I'll just be providing general overviews of each character to explain the why and how behind their designs in an easily digestible manner. I'm also getting most of my information from the heavily detailed character discussion threads on the Street Fighter 4 subreddit. The person behind them all has since deleted their account, but a big shout out goes to them nonetheless. Okay, with all of the ramblings out of the way, let's enter the rabbit hole of Street Fighter 4's newcomers. First on the agenda is Abel, the mysterious French amnesiac with a really deep connection to M. Bison and Seth. Taking the form of a mix-up heavy grappler, Abel is known for his very scary pressure involving high damage overheads, side-switching rolls, and devastating command grabs. One of Abel's most crucial tools is his step kick, and this allows him to start pressure via his change of direction. This is a wrecker string that has multiple ways to progress, including unexpected lows to catch unaware opponents. If the opponent starts to block in neutral, Abel can step kick and then command grab, and this is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to potential pressure. Despite his size and reputation as a grappler, Abel is surprisingly nimble in the ground game, and this could trip up even the best of players. Everything Abel does has the intention of moving him forward in the match, both literally and figuratively, and the Reddit thread I mentioned before sums it up perfectly in a single word: momentum. If Abel gets one good hit and confirms it into a knockdown, he has the opportunity to begin his snowball fighting style and keep mounting on pressure until the other player breaks. As shown in the iconic Rico Suave vs Sanford Kelly match from 2013, if Abel is in this range with his opponent, there are multiple ways for him to proceed, especially if the enemy starts throwing fireballs. Fireballs may seem like a solid way to keep a grappler at bay, especially from a distance, but one wrong application of this strategy can easily lead to your downfall against Abel. If the enemy attempts to smother Abel with pressure via air normals, he can rely on Falling Sky to slam them back down, and his crouching heavy punch will also work here too. You can even use this normal to combo into Falling Sky on a grounded opponent, making it a great way to end rounds. Abel also has access to many option selects and resets, and I simply don't have the time to cover them all, so I'll summarize them by saying that if you're knocked down and he's towering over you, there are 1,000,001 options you have to consider, leading to really tricky mind games. Even if Abel makes mistakes and eats a projectile for lunch, his high health and stun values ensures that he can survive in the long run, and when combined with strong offensive capabilities, it may seem like Abel is a hurricane of a character, but I would be lying if I said he didn't have any weaknesses. Abel's walk speed is very slow, leading him to struggle in footsies against characters with strong backwards movement options. Dashing and rolling in can help to quickly close distance in theory, but any aware opponent can just punish Abel if he gets reckless, so he has to remain patient. Abel's standing light kick is a good poking tool to use in neutral, but he can't use it to start combos, so if Abel becomes complacent with trying to step kick after, you can use a reversal to beat him out. Abel's over-reliance on forward movement can lead to him being thrown out of a roll if he becomes predictable, and going for a big wake-up reversal is very risky. When it comes to competitive play, 801 Strider, Kiyoma, and Shiro were the premier Abel players, with Strider being the most iconic. I'm sure we've all seen how dominating he made Abel look at high-level play, and there were always exciting moments to be had.
Time to guess, Mr. Umehara!
No, Strider did it! Strider did it! And he pops! And he pops! And he pops!
A specific piece of Kiyoma Abel lore I remember from way back in the day was when Snake Eyes, famous for his loyalty to Zangief, stated something along the lines of the South American and European scenes not being as strong as North America. And when the two players faced off in the Capcom Cup 2015, Kiyoma was driven by a desire to prove Snake Eyes wrong, and he did, defeating him 2-0.
I like that. Kiyoma keeps shouting!
Kiyoma!
The tornado throw, and there it is!
He takes out Snake Eyes!
Kiyoma is going to move on winner's side!
2-0!
The surrounding discourse about Abel in the present day is one of mediocrity, as many Street Fighter players all around the world found the character to be really visually uninspired and lacking any sort of memorable qualities. This is a really unpopular opinion on my part, but I think it would be really cool to see Abel make his grand return in Street Fighter 6, mostly so we could get some closure into his complex relationship with Shadaloo. Seductive, stylish, and execution-heavy are all perfect descriptors for Crimson Viper, as she brings a very unique style of gameplay focused on special move feints and high jump cancels to Street Fighter's traditional grounded footsies. With access to rapid-fire cancels and ambiguous mix-ups, Viper can bring the hurt on any opponent who she knocks down with her assortment of killer technology, and this is something that was never really seen before in previous entries. She's arguably the most technical character in the whole game, and playing her effectively requires a downright Herculean amount of dedication. The most important aspect of her game plan are the aforementioned feints, and not only can they be used in combos, but also in block and pressure strings. Rapidly cancelling animations can often paralyze opponents with fear and just confuse them, allowing you to go for different attack types, especially when you're right up close. Seismic Hammer comes out at different ranges depending on the input, and it also hits low, so you can use this at a distance to catch those unfamiliar with the matchup. If it hits, you can also super jump cancel into Burning Kick or Ultra 2, but you can also cancel it if it whiffs. This doesn't build any meter, but you can use it from a distance to bait the enemy into jumping in at you. If this happens, Heavy Thunderducker will anti-air, and this can combo into her Ultra 1 for big damage. Forcing the enemy into situations where they're struck by an unexpected attack is paramount to success with Viper, and this ties into a really tricky mix-up game. Knocking the opponent down and then advancing via a forward super jump is a dominating position to be in, as you choose how you come down. Do you import a normal and attempt a combo? Do you burning kick? Do you not press anything and attempt an empty jump throw? The sky is really the limit in moments like these because of their unpredictability, and even if the enemy blocks low for safety when up close, Viper can feint into her overhead to begin looping pressure. If your character doesn't have a way to low profile Viper's burning kick or other high hitting strikes, then you're forced to deal with the mix. An underrated aspect of Viper's mix-ups and pressure strings ties into the sheer amount of execution required to effectively pilot her. As opposed to straightforward mix-ups like throw loops in Street Fighter 6 where there aren't many possible outcomes, Viper's mix in Street Fighter 4 introduces a staggering amount of mind games for both players, as there are plenty of options for both parties to choose from. There are talented Viper players all over the world, but Wolf Krone and Latif come to my mind as some of the best. From what I've seen over the years, these two had rock-steady nerves that allowed them to mix up and pressure even the most strongest of players, and Latif's iconic run at EVO 2011 where he perfectly used all of Viper's tools has gone down in the history books. What makes this victory so impressive is that Latif was able to manage the mental stack of juggling so many execution-heavy techniques in a really high-stress tournament setting, and this leads into what I view as one of Viper's greatest weaknesses. If you're having an off day, or the stress is piling on, or the delay-based netcode is kicking your butt, then you'll always fall short of the execution requirements behind her most effective maneuvers, and this is exactly why more people don't use her in this game and in a game like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Both of these titles have totally different gameplay mechanics, but a common factor that they both share is that Viper requires godlike execution to achieve victory. On paper, Theory Viper is absolutely brilliant, but Reality Viper isn't as perfect. She's not a brainless character that you can face roll with for easy wins in tournament settings, so it's always amazing to see someone use her at maximum capacity, and I really wish they would bring her back. I love El Fuerte. Now, before you assault me in the comments, I just think that a masked luchador who runs around at top speed and talks non-stop about food is perfect for a wacky game like Street Fighter, and if you thought Crimson Viper had ambiguous mix-ups, then you aren't ready for this guy. Most stance characters in fighting games input a button combination to transition into a completely new moveset, but El Fuerte flips this on his head by incorporating rapid movement to this phenomenon. Much like real-world luchadors, Fuerte is incredibly nimble, and he uses his small size as leverage to quickly traverse around the screen at all sorts of angles. It's because of his hyperactive nature that many people think that he isn't a quote-unquote real Street Fighter character, due to his character archetype acting as a giant middle finger to traditional footsies, but I think this works in his favor. Fuerte is designed to frustrate and confuse the enemy with unpredictable cross-ups, long-range anti-airs, and anti-fireball tools, so he has an answer to just about every situation. It all stems from his run special move, as this gives him access to a whole new set of attacks. He can go for a low, a mid, an overhead that can hit from either side, and a command grab, just to name a few. Fuerte can also run backwards to escape the enemy, and EX run has armor, making this strategy more effective. The best El Fuerte in the world, and my personal favorite Street Fighter 4 player, Japan's Pepper Dye, used Fuerte to dominate all types of characters over the years, and if you want to see just how annoying Fuerte can be to deal with, I highly recommend checking Pepper Dye's matches out. Another important technique is his Quesadilla Bomb, and this is essentially a forward-moving jump scare. You can use it to end combos or in neutral to quickly strike opponents, although it can be punished on block. The EX version breaks armor, and it can wall bounce on counter hits, leading to huge damage in the corner. This is one of his key frustration techniques, as just when the opponent thinks that they can advance and start pressuring in neutral, they'll be sent flying back to the corner when they least expect it. When combined with a corpse-hopping overhead, a long-range low, and a meaty roundhouse, it's very scary dealing with Fuerte after he's knocked you down, and like Crimson Viper, he makes you guess for your life in these situations. Fuerte also lacks any zoning tools like a fireball or an extended normal, so he wants to be up close and personal. The idea is to score a knockdown and then begin a vortex of unpredictable overheads, lows, and throws, and when the opponent gets frustrated and makes a simple mistake, you punish them for it. Also like Viper, Fuerte is held back by demanding execution requirements and mind games, and if the opponent knows the matchup, then his gimmicks won't be very effective. Excluding very specific circumstances, Fuerte can't do a simple, meterless, high damage combo, so he needs to continuously apply mind games over the course of the match to whittle his opponent down. This is inherently risky, and while the rewards can be amazing when they work out, they can also cost you the game when they don't. Finding the balance between safe yet low reward and risky yet high reward and quickly switching between these two styles in an instant is crucial to playing Fuerte effectively, and it means that things just won't work out at times. I'd love to see what Capcom could do with an El Fuerte redesign in Street Fighter 6, but until then, I'll have to keep coming back here for some luchador goodness. Ken's master, the infamous Gouken, is based on the iconic Shenlong hoax from the Street Fighter 2 days, and his very first playable appearance was in vanilla Street Fighter 4 on home consoles. He might seem like a traditional shoto on the surface, but he can possess some interesting quirks that help set him apart, the first of which being his fireballs. These can travel at a variety of angles, and their potency can be improved by charging them. This lets Gouken threaten grounded and airborne enemies from most ranges, and it can also lead to big damage if you have the right timing. EX Fireball also covers the ground and the air, so you can throw this out if you need to force the enemy away. If they attempt to jump over a fireball, Gouken's quick recovery allows him to rip out an EX Tatsu, and this travels vertically. Each version has upper body invincibility, allowing it to be used as an anti-air, and the EX version specifically is fantastic as a reversal due to its fast startup and full invincibility. Back throw into EX Tatsu is a classic Gouken combo, and you can easily use this to close out the round. Continuing with the inverse of movement trajectories, Gouken's medium and heavy Shoryuken also travel forward, and this means that it has amazing corner carry. The light version doesn't move forward at all, but its startup allows it to be used as an easy combo ender, as well as a great meter building tool. Trying to zone Gouken with repeated projectiles won't work if they become predictable, as Gouken can phase through them with this move, allowing him to quickly advance towards the opponent. Another unique part of Gouken's toolkit is his Kongoshin. Light counters lows, medium counters mids, and heavy counters highs, with the EX version countering all ranges. If you have a hard read, you can counter and wake up as a reversal and then confirm into super for big damage, but this is very risky. If you manage to land a solid hit into a combo, Gouken can severely punish any enemy with his really high damage output, especially when they're in the corner. If they make a big mistake here and Gouken has resources, it's lights out. In a situation like this, Gouken can also attempt mix-ups that will catch opponents who are asleep at the wheel. Unlike the straightforward nature of some other shotos that allow new players to quickly understand what they need to do, Gouken is more challenging, especially in terms of your mindset. Should you prioritize air fireballs over ground ones to catch the enemy in case they jump? Since low forward has really poor range, how do you land a quick confirm in the mid-range? Do you select Ultra 1 for more damage yet limited range, or Ultra 2 for far less damage but more realistic opportunities to land it? These are only some really basic questions, and the more advanced ones start to come into play at high-level competition, and I remember players like Velociraptor and Lingo having some awesome moments. Seeing how Gouken's counter would be used effectively or straight hit confirms into ultras from fireballs was amazing, and it makes me miss Gouken as he hasn't shown up in Street Fighter 5 or 6. I don't think Gouken was considered to be super strong or amazing or anything like that over Street Fighter 4's lifespan, but his twist on general moves we all take for granted solidified him in the game's character roster as arguably the most eccentric shoto, and I loved using him in casuals. Gouken can do many things over the course of the match, but he can't do them all at once, so the responsibility on the shoulders of Gouken players is to figure out what the opponent wants to do, counter their strategy, and then make them regret showing up to the fight. Probably the most hated newcomer in Street Fighter history, Rufus combines speed and weight to deliver a very quirky fighting style, and I honestly really miss him. Rufus has nothing in the way of projectiles or zoning tools, although his very annoying far heavy punch reminds me of Dalsum's long range normals. This move has great range and also does nice damage, so you'd want to use it when in mid range. Other than that, Rufus likes to be up close with the enemy, and the most important tool in accomplishing this is his dive kick. This attack has no height limit, meaning that he can do it instantly after leaving the ground, and it's also safe on block when spaced correctly. Harassing the enemy with dive kicks is a crucial aspect of Rufus' strategy, and it can lead to high damage on hit. If they start jumping to avoid a grounded combo, Snake Strike, a very weird looking anti-air, can send them closer to the corner, and the EX version is infamous for doing stupid amounts of damage. Jumping in on Rufus can be scary because of his great crouching medium punch, but if he has the read and lands a combo like this, it can make the enemy adopt a more grounded style of defense in the long run. If this happens, many of Rufus's normals aren't the best for footsies, so he can be kept at bay by smart opponents. If he lands a hit and needs to use a simple combo ender, Galactic Tornado is a good advancing tool, and it can combo into itself in the corner. EX Galactic Tornado has a vacuum effect, and he can even FADC out of it to confirm into Ultra 1. This move does a lot of damage and is great for making comebacks, so it's the preferred Ultra for Rufus players. If he gets knocked down, EX Messiah Kick can be used as a reversal, and it also has multiple follow-ups. He can do a low, overhead, or a mid that naturally combos after the first hit. In tournament play, I remember Justin Wong and Ricky Ortiz the most, and although there are definitely other solid Rufus players all around the world, these two defined the character for me when I was younger. Watching how they effectively begin pressure with Rufus's dive kick and confirm into big damage with his ultras was good fun, and I'm sure they inspired many people to give the character a go, if they could get past his visual design. When discussions about Rufus begin, people are often quick to lambast him for his odd and somewhat grotesque appearance. He doesn't look cool, weathered, attractive, or even focused, as his free-flowing idle animation demonstrates a loose and very relaxed attitude. He looks even sillier when he crouches, and you can do some pretty funny looking stuff with the training mode dummy. Despite Rufus replacing other dive kick characters like Yun and Yang in previous iterations of Street Fighter 4, I wouldn't be surprised if twin players were turned away from Rufus because of his appearance, but personally, I always liked it. I mean, his design isn't the best I've ever seen or anything like that, but I can appreciate the weird energy he brings to the table. If Rufus were to come back for Street Fighter 6, there would be never-ending complaints about how he's stealing a character slot from a more worthy character, but I'd love to see him return with a new outfit, especially if they can bring back his really long wing quotes.
That is the Tanden engine.
As the main antagonist of Street Fighter 4, Seth's devastating versatility is his greatest strength, and he can really do it all. With fireballs, command grabs, teleports, anti-airs, long-range normals, combo extended tools for weaks, amazing resets, and a full-screen ultra that beats projectiles, Seth can be a very, very overwhelming character if you aren't familiar with the matchup. And I'm sure we all remember how dominating Krunko was back in the day. This guy was constantly doing really dirty 50-50s and pressure strings all while on a sugar high from copious amounts of energy drinks, and I loved watching him play as a kid. Seth is far from perfect though, and one of his downsides is that his only reversal is an EXDP, and he also has the lowest health value in the whole game, leading to him taking huge damage for making simple mistakes. He also lost a lot of his more egregious tools over Street Fighter 4's lifespan, and for example, Seth used to be able to cancel blocked normals into Tanden Engine to skew frame advantage in his favor, but this was removed in Ultra, and his jumping heavy kick also used to cross up, leading to huge damage and stun when acting as a combo starter. On a surface level, Seth is somewhat of a shoto as he can use fireballs and DPs to control space in the mid-range, but I think of him more as a jack of all trades. He has answers for when the opponent is up close, far away, in the air, or even when they're knocked down, so he can really do it all, and he shines when on the offense. Seth's ability to perform mix-ups and mind games is terrifying, and one solid hit can instantly shift the pace of the match. Ending a combo with lightning legs sends them away, and if Seth is fighting a character that needs to be up close to win, then this tool quickly forces those characters out of their win condition, and this only gets deadlier in the corner. Lightning legs into air command normals are a fantastic way to begin a left-right mix-up, and there are so many options he can consider from this situation. Forcing the enemy into a situation where they begin to panic and start making snap decisions as Seth breathes down their neck is exactly what he wants, and even after the many nerfs he received in Ultra Street Fighter 4, this is still deadly. I remember many people saying that Seth was dead in Ultra because of these downgrades, and even though I'm far from an expert, I've seen high-level players do really well with him in this version of Street Fighter 4 specifically. I tried researching Ultra tier lists, and I found one from Justin Wong where he places Seth as the 5th best character in the game, but I'm not sure how accurate this is. I was overjoyed to see Seth return in Street Fighter 5, especially with a radically new appearance, and it gives me hope that he'll return one day in Street Fighter 6. Hailing from Turkey, Hakan is the world's strongest oil wrestler, and his bizarre energy simultaneously revolts some and intrigues others. When in neutral, Hakan can pour oil on himself to buff his moveset, and the length of this move depends on which version you use. Heavier versions provide lengthier buffs, but they take longer to finish, whereas lights do the opposite. The oil buff increases Hakan's damage output, decreases damage taken, boosts his grab range, mobility, allows him to cancel dashes into normals, and it also lets him move during his focus attack, so oiling up whenever you can is very, very important. Playing without oil means Hakan will constantly be fighting an uphill battle, especially against characters with really strong keep away tools. A common strategy is to land oil rocket and then oil up when the opponent is knocked down, and capitalizing on any potential oil time over the course of the match is the hallmark of a strong Hakan player. This move comes out in 3 frames, and it has a range increase when using the EX version. Scoring knockdowns is a crucial aspect of Hakan's strategy, and his oil slide lets him do exactly that. This slide hits low, and it will catch players if they don't frequently block low and neutral, and the range gets even better when oiled. His jumping medium punch places the enemy into a juggle state where oil slide connects as a combo ender, so you're not even safe in the air. Oil Dive is a leaping command grab that can easily catch grounded opponents when used sparingly, as becoming predictable can easily get Hakan punished. You can charge the move startup to introduce mind games relating to when the move will become active, and if Hakan has conditioned the opponent to avoid jumping, their fear may prevent them from counterattacking. Despite his really wacky personality and moveset, Hakan is a grappler at the end of the day, and like Zangief and T-Hawk, he too can easily instill fear into any opponent when played optimally. There are multiple option selects, safe jump setups, and resets Hakan can use to throw the enemy off their game, and they can be terrifying. The most famous Hakan match is when Korea's Infiltration used him to counterpick PR Balrog at EVO 2013, and if you want to see just how effective Hakan can be when used by a top-level player, this is the set for you. If a character doesn't have a fireball or some other kind of zoning tool they can use in neutral, Hakan can usually get some distance from the enemy and then oil up for free, providing a more favourable matchup for when they inevitably get close to each other. Infiltration uses Hakan's Ultra 1, a devastating command grab in this set, but I also have to mention Ultra 2 specifically. This is an anti-air tool that involves the enemy literally slipping up, and it can be used to punish not only jump attempts, but also backdashes and block DPs. It gets even crazier, as if you combo into Oil Dive from mid-screen, light oil, and then meaty forward throw, you have enough time to react with Ultra 2 if they jump. Even if they try to jump out of the corner, this will still catch them. If they're already in the corner and you input something like this, you can do this technique yet again to punish them, and the mind games brought about by Ultra 2 makes the move terrifying. Hakan was never considered to be very strong, but the aforementioned Infiltration, along with players like Ebby and Tommy Guns, prove that when in the right hands, he can be an absolute menace. A Turkish oil wrestler is certainly a unique choice for a fighting game, and even though I highly doubt he will return in Street Fighter 6, Hakan had a good run in Street Fighter 4.
That felt good, didn't it?
Combining sadomasochism, taekwondo, and a whole lot of negative edge techniques, Juri is by far the most popular Street Fighter 4 newcomer, and she brings a very unique playstyle to the table. Many of her combos and neutral interactions revolve around her fireballs. These can shoot out at different angles depending on the input, but holding the button down stores the attack for future use. This means you can keep it in storage and use the fireball later on in a completely different context. This introduces long-term decision-making into Juri's fighting style, as it's not enough to throw out a fireball and just be done with it. Instead, you have to think of potential future situations to use the fireball, and this system rewards players with strong discipline. Keeping the button held down also means that you can't use the normal associated with it, so you also have to quickly decide which normal you want to sacrifice. Juri also has access to a multi-hitting pinwheel that does lots of damage and breaks armor, a dive kick that also breaks armor and leads to a wall bounce with meter, and a pseudo counter that allows her to seductively slip away from danger. She doesn't have an ocean's worth of special moves, but the strategies behind the one she does have makes up the bulk of her mind games and execution requirements, and when combined with her below average health and stun values, Juri players must demonstrate solid reads and reactions at high level. Her walk speed also isn't amazing, so utilizing dashes and safe jumps can help to close the distance if Juri decides to incorporate an offensive strategy into her game plan. If the enemy attempts to avoid the ground game by jumping, she can anti-air with her jumping medium punch and confirm it to pinwheel, and this functions very similarly to Hakan's aforementioned combo. Crouching heavy punch is also a strong anti-air, but it gets even deadlier if you forward dash after it. This technique leads to a borderline unreactable cross-up, and it can be used to score huge damage. Juri can also rely on her overhead to condition the enemy into blocking high, but this gets even deadlier with her Ultra 1. This move is one of the scariest ultras in the whole game, as it allows her to cancel normals into each other, leading to very terrifying situations. Instead of landing the overhead and just going back to neutral, it now acts as a combo starter in an instance with outcomes that heavily favor Juri. Ultra 1 essentially turns her into a Marvel vs. Capcom character, as not only are her combos devastating, but she can also throw in resets at any time to make them even deadlier. Low health characters can explode at even the slightest touch of Ultra 1, so the install's properties make Juri into a death machine. I don't have the time to cover everything that Juri can do with this Ultra, but just know that the amount of options she has access to when powered up is very, very intimidating. Infiltration and II were strong Juri players I used to watch back in the day, and if you ever want to closely examine how negative edge techniques and Ultra 1 were used in real competitive games, definitely watch their match footage. It's not rare to see Juri whip out a downright catastrophic combo when the stars align, and the sheer length of her metered combos help to stun the opponent, leading to even more damage and meter build. Going forward with the series, I'm sure that Juri will be here to stay. She has unique animations, competitive relevance, and a killer fanbase, so it's a really good time to be a Juri supporter. I look forward to learning more about her backstory in future titles, but it was also nice going back to the past and analyzing her very first iteration. If you ever wanted to see a Akuma go Super Saiyan while on steroids, Oni is the character for you, as he combines traditional Shoto gameplay with some really tricky new moves. Phasing through the enemy and doing a Raging Demon in the air are all child's play for Oni, but after the initial thrill wears off, he starts to feel weaker than Akuma, which is quite ironic. Oni's mediocre walk speed, lack of true reversals outside of DP, and really bad focus attack hold him back somewhat, so he has to pull out all the stops to ensure that he controls the pace of the match. One of the reasons behind Akuma's fear factor was his dominating vortex, and I'm sure we remember just how scary it was to be knocked down in moments like these. Although Oni definitely has options to introduce hard knockdown pressure to any given match, it's simply nowhere near as strong as Akuma's offerings. Oni has a regular fireball, a charged fireball, and Akuma's red fireball, providing him with useful options to participate in projectile wars, and his multi-hitting DP also functions nicely as an anti-air and combo ender. If he's at this range and he needs to clip the opponent, forward heavy punch works nicely, although this can't be cancelled into anything and it's unsafe on block, so be very careful. Low forward into a special is also a viable option, and this can close out matches when combined with red focus, providing you uses for Oni's focus attack. The really cool stuff, however, involves his other special moves, and these can be super deadly to unaware opponents. Zanku Hadosho acts similarly to an air dash, but it has a hitbox, and it's possible to strike enemies from many angles. This provides Oni with a degree of aerial mobility that isn't commonplace within Street Fighter 4, and it can really throw the enemy for a loop. The move can also be cancelled into an EX Air Tatsu to send the enemy flying away, and this also has a really respectable damage output. If you aren't satisfied with forward medium punch for an overhead, try using Oni's ground pound. This can be used on the opponent's wake up to keep them guessing which side to block, but it's really unsafe and only the EX version breaks armor. Finally, he also has Rapid Slash, and the strength changes the move's distance. Light is a combo tool, medium can be used as a whiff punish from a distance, and heavy switches sides. EX breaks armor and also switches sides, so you can include it into combos for resets if the enemy isn't familiar with fighting Oni. Even though Oni lacks Akuma's teleport, he can use the heavy version to quickly cover distance after securing a knockdown, and this builds meter in the process. You can also use this move to strike the opponent on their wake up if they don't block the right way, although smart players will do this every single time. Speaking of smart players, Wow, Gyro, and Sanford Kelly are Oni players that I remember spectating, and they made excellent use of Oni's unique special moves and target combos. Since the character's damage output is extremely high, all these players needed to dominate was one hard read in the heat of the moment. Before we move on, I'd also like to mention Oni's Ultras. Ultra 1 is a fireball that can be charged up to boost its damage, and Ultra 2 is perhaps the most anime fighting technique I've ever seen in this whole series. I can't even begin to imagine how Capcom created this move, but we all love it, come on, it looks so cool! Comboing into Ultra 2 without stun requires lots of resources, but closing out a game with it will make you feel godlike. Oni may have been overshadowed by the game's other shotos in the long run, but his sheer power makes me long for his return in Street Fighter 6. As the final Street Fighter 4 character to be added, Decapre was the only newcomer to Ultra, as the other characters were playable in Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter Cross Tekken. If you weren't around for the Ultra hype train way back when, Capcom first announced these 4 characters with a 5th one being hidden. Fans were going absolutely crazy with speculation concerning who this mysterious figure could possibly be, and theories about Rainbow Mika and even Street Fighter 1's Retsu are discussions that I still remember quite vividly. When it was finally revealed that Decapre, a bison doll, was indeed the final character, the hype bubble was deflated as people initially viewed her as a Kami clone, and although they definitely share similarities, there are also many differences. Many of Decapre's special moves are locked behind charge motions, leading to her losing offensive options when walking forward. Kami's Spiral Arrow can quickly be performed with a motion input, but Decapre's version is done out of a charge motion, and it also works in the air. Its airborne nature means that it beats throws, but it's very unsafe when not spaced. Another aerial technique is Scramble, and this move is infamous for confusing just about everyone who has to deal with it. Decapre can quickly travel at a variety of angles with different attack strengths, and these have the potential to end in follow-ups. What makes this move really bewildering is when you start breaking it, as she can nearly instantly teleport back to where she started. Trying to anti-air Decapre out of this move on reaction is challenging, as she can just say no to your attack and punish you instead. She can also teleport straight down to where the enemy is and perform strike throw mix-ups, and the heavy version is where the damage can become really good. It's death on block if she times or spaces it wrong, but get it right and she can combo into her air throw, leading to huge meterless damage. After a knockdown, it's possible to land this meaty to make it safe, and when you add in the previous scramble trajectories, defending against it becomes very, very stressful. A setup I love seeing is EX Scramble into Dive Kick, Jab, Heavy Scramble, Air Throw. This does wild damage, and it can work on even the most experienced players. If you don't have time to charge, Decapre has access to a consistent target combo into Air Throw, so you can have your cake and eat it too. Rapid Dagger is very reminiscent of E-Honda's 100 Hand Slap, but all the versions, minus EX, are unsafe on block. Learning piano techniques to consistently confirm into this attack in footsies is a major aspect of her strategies, and you'll be sacrificing a lot of potential setups if you don't learn this technique. Decapre's final special move is Psycho Sting, and this is a fantastic anti-air. Each version has varying degrees of invincibility, and you can spend resources to confirm a stray hit into big damage. The attack's charge motion means that it can't be done quickly on reaction, but it does prevent Decapre from becoming crossed up, and it can destroy low health characters. From what I remember, Decapre was considered to be top tier throughout Ultra's competitive relevance thanks to her potential for dominating mix-ups and mind games. Infiltration and Knuckle Dew demonstrated just how deadly Decapre could be on the competitive circuit, and they used her to beat top players in a variety of matchups. They also universally used Ultra 1, as even though Ultra 2 is a really solid cinematic super, Ultra 1's fear factor was just too good to be ignored. Giving Decapre a giant moving hitbox to supplement her mix-ups is really dirty, and one mistake is all that's needed for her to take the round. I highly doubt that Capcom will ever bring her back as a playable character in future titles, but I'd be lying if I said that she wasn't a lot of fun here in Ultra, and if I had to relearn the game, I'd most likely choose to main her for the monstrous damage and mix-up she has. And with that, we're at the end of our journey. There's way more stuff for each character that I just didn't have the time to cover, so if you'd like to learn more, I highly recommend reading through the Reddit character threads I mentioned before, as well as watching pro player footage on YouTube. I haven't done this much research into Street Fighter 4 in over a decade, and it felt really nostalgic going back and figuring out the specifics behind each newcomer. They all greatly differ in size, speed, fighting style, relevance in the meta, etc., and I hope that some of them return in all of their glory for Street Fighter 6. Love them or hate them, but the Street Fighter 4 newcomers provide players of all skill levels with thought-provoking ways to interact with not just character-specific options, but also the game's universal mechanics, and the gameplay diversity they brought with them is something that I've always appreciated. There's a type of character for every fighting game player in Street Fighter 4, and from day one, it's always been my favorite quality of the title. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate your time, and I hope you learned something about a few of the characters. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.